dude's like 6'6". He comes in with a Santa Cruz sweatshirt on, and he thinks I'm cool. And I'm like, hey, what's up, Jay? How you doing, dude? 'Cause I'm 5'6.5", and so I'm like a midget to him. But anyway, I'm rebroadcasting a lot of the audio from those shows, along with starting to put some new content out. And it's just been a learning process doing it all myself, but I like it. I like being in control of being able to do stuff when I want to do it. And also I can have any guest on the planet, any guest on the planet now, because I am running the thing. And I had that option with the drop-in, but it's just a little bit more personal, and there's no limit to where the show can go. So I'm going to continue doing it. I love inspiring people, and through podcasts, I can reach a wide audience.
Man, that's super cool. Yeah. And in the beginning of your videos, it's like you always touch on what the drop-in is about, like inspiration and motivation. And I freaking love that, because you can talk about inspiration, you can talk about the same topic, but when you're doing it with a different person each time, it just hits someone else in a different way. That maybe if I'm talking to you, maybe someone doesn't really relate to it, or if we're talking to someone else, it's like, wow, that person just touched me in a way where it's like, I'm going to change something about my life now. And I think it's the same thing with like a kickflip or rock to fakie. Everybody, it's the same trick. Everybody can go do a rock to fakie, but we all have our own styles, and we all have our own stories to tell, and it comes off a different way. So,
and as we continue to grow, I talk about a gentleman named Steve Yzerman quite a bit. He was a captain for the Detroit Red Wings for the life of his career, and his role changed with the team throughout his whole professional career. When he came in at 18, he was made the captain. He was a goal scorer, and then he was a playmaker, and then he was a defensive forward, and he shifted and he embraced that role. And life is a lot like that. Skateboarding is a lot like that. Coming up, I was fired up and excited, and then turning pro, it was like competing and traveling and shooting footage, and every time I stepped on the board, I had to be a show. I had to put on a show because that's what people expected. And then you evolve to where I'm at now, and I get OG status, and I get to show up and skate and talk to people, and sometimes really get after it. But other times I'm happy with just sharing stories or helping somebody learn how to drop in or whatever it is. And life is a lot like that. When we embrace the change that is happening instead of fighting against it, really magical things happen. And that's what I'm seeing in my life. I started inspiring people, really focusing on it in about 2007. And that was the last year I competed in the X Games. And I started going, now what do I do next? And I wanted to inspire people. So I figured out how to do that. What do I have to do? I'm going to make a TV show, and I don't know anything about TV shows. And so I started researching it, and I got to write a treatment. I have to do this and that. Figured it out, was fired up. Within a year, I had a TV show running in the Midwest. And then I'm like, oh, what do I do next? I got to write a book. Let's write a book. And so I met some punk rockers who were ghostwriters. They helped me get a book written. And the reason I bring these two things up specifically is I've always embraced the DIY attitude, that you cannot wait for somebody else to do it for you, and you can't blame anybody else because it didn't happen. You have to grab the bull by the horns, no matter what it is in your life. And with the TV show, the book, then I'm like, what do I do next? I can't keep this adrenaline going forever. So that's when I started doing a podcast from my couch in 2010. And I started interviewing my friends just on my phone. They were on the other end, and we broadcast it. And over a 3-year period, it got 250,000 listens. I couldn't believe people were actually listening to this show. But the people that were on the show were so exciting. It was so cool. And it just kept on growing. And that's where I'm at today. It continues to evolve, either with the small clothing company that I do called Purple Heart, or with the podcast, or with going to the skate park and helping the 6-year-old learn how to drop in, or the 40-year-old to learn how to drop in. Goosebumps get all over my body every time I see somebody drop in for the first time, because we were all there.
Right,
we were all in that same spot, And I just try to let people know, have fun with life, man, and whatever you want to do. If you love socks, be a freaking sock maker, man. Make cool socks because you'll be fired up.
I love it, man. I love it. And it's accountability for yourself. I think that's one thing that's really pushed me and gotten me to improve, especially the past year. You know, everybody's stuck in their house, and it's with you. You are the only one that's going to get you to do whatever you want in life. And you really have to write out, okay, everything, this is what I don't want, but this is what I'm happy with. And this is what really pushes me and I get excited about, like those goosebumps. It's just fighting those insecurities about, well, what is my mom going to think about me making socks, right? Or like doing something like that.
You know, I've been fortunate where early on, I was an ice hockey goaltender. And that's what I started playing hockey when I was 4. Goalie's a little crazy. My mom didn't like people shooting pucks at my head and trying to hurt me, but she knew I loved it. And when I started dyeing my hair and getting into punk rock, I took care of what my responsibilities were. So I did okay in school and I showed up every day. So my mom was okay with me having crazy color hair and my friends showing up with maroon and gold mohawks because we all did okay in school. And, it was great to have her embrace those things in my life. And with skateboarding, it has been no different. My mom and my dad both have been very supportive of the different things I've gotten into. And it got to a point where, at 19, I'm like, I want to learn how to play the drums. And my mom was like, oh, cool. She just like, okay, cool. And she was okay. Never in a million years did she ever tell me you can't do that. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit because some people know the story and some people don't. But when I was born, I had to wear braces on my legs, sort of like Forrest Gump. And I couldn't walk for the first couple of years. And I'm deaf in my right ear. But my mom never told me you can't do that. She never let on ever, not once, that I was limited by those things. And I think that helped me carry that through the short time I've been on this planet to really realize that I'm not limited to anything. I think if I walked into my mom or my grandma's house right now and said, hey, I'm going to be president of the United States, they'd go, cool, Garold, I know you probably will. Can you help me hang these curtain rods?
Yeah.
Like they just expect it because I have a drive, and when I put my mind to it, usually it's going to happen or something similar. And that's, I hope folks watching this video get a little bit of that the do-it-yourself attitude. You brought up accountability. I think that is epic. Personal accountability is starting to become a lost art.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm focusing on this year in 2021 in my podcast is accountability, personal accountability, man.
It's so true. I always am reminded of like how much I'm sleeping. We sleep a third of our life. If you're sleeping 8 hours, some people are sleeping more, and then we're working 8 hours at least. Some people are doing overtime. So then you really only have this small window of your life of after work and before sleep of like, what am I working on? And is where I'm at, where I want to be in 5 years, 10 years? Is this my ideal life? And if not, then maybe I shouldn't be going out and hanging out with friends, or maybe I should sacrifice some short-term gratifications now to have this long-term life that I want to live. And that is right there with the accountability and really just not giving a shit what people think so that you can start that. Something as simple as posting to Instagram or Facebook because you're like worried about, oh, well, my voice is weird. I don't want people to like see how or hear me or look at my face or whatever the insecurities that we have, but it limits you. So if you can just hop that hurdle and hold yourself accountable to say, maybe I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyways because it's going to get me closer to where I want to be.
And you lead into a great point, which is sometimes we have to get out of our comfort zone in order to grow. And sometimes we have to do the things that are a little bit uncomfortable to get to where we're really supposed to be. And I think it helps in personal growth. I think people around you will really gain a different respect for you when you're willing to say, yeah, I'll give that a shot. Instead of always saying no, saying, yeah, I'll try whatever it is, hitting a backhand on a tennis court. I know I'm a skateboarder, but let's give it a shot, or whatever it is. Just getting outside of yourself sometimes the accolades, the personal accolades, and I talk a lot about personal accountability and also loving yourself, because I think that's very important. And I'm not talking about in a weird kind of egotistical way, but I'm saying have enough respect for yourself and be able to look in the mirror and go, dude, I did that. If it's getting on social media, you know, when you're done, you're like, oh my God, my heart's going to jump out of my chest. But then you look in the mirror and you go, holy shit, I just did that. I did that.
Right.
And then the sky's the limit.
Yeah, it's like it directly relates to skating and that first drop-in feeling. It's like you did it, whether it's I made something small like a post, or you successfully, you know, like I had that feeling the first time I checked my email and it was like, oh, you have a pending purchase order. Someone bought one of my NESW boards. And the first time I saw that, it was like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know why, but it was because I sent out emails and I made the website and I did so much work on the back end. And it was just like, wow, it was so gratifying. I'm like, I know if I can get one person to buy it, I can get these boards across the world, you know, and really grow this community. So it's a good feeling.
That's a great lesson for me listening to you, because I am such an instant gratification person. You know, if I hit send on an email, I want the response right now. And I had to learn that over a number of years to be a little bit more patient, know the process is going to work exactly the way it's going to work. And no matter how much I worry or freak out about it or yell at the TV or yell at my computer tube, it's gonna be what it is going to be, and I can't control that. And it took me a long time to get there, but it's something I enjoy now. And that feeling, like you said, the first time somebody ordered a Purple Heart shirt that I didn't know personally, I was like, whoa, how did they even know about that company? You know?
Yeah, it's like you want to track it back and then you figure out why they did it, so then you can do it again.
Yeah. It's a great feeling, especially when you know you put in the work. And that goes back to that accountability, that building self-love and building self-confidence, which, you know, skateboarding, I feel one of the greatest things, and we talk about that first drop-in, we've talked about it a few times. I've helped people that were 5 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old, drop in for the first time. And the reaction, I might even get choked up right now thinking about it, because the reaction is always the same. Yeah. It's always the same. They drop in and you see their arms go up and you're like, and you're reliving it personally. Yeah. And I seem like all sappy and whatnot, but it's true. Seeing that kind of determination and to overcome something like that, it seems so trivial to a lot of people, but that person that did it, it is a hurdle that at one point seemed insurmountable, and they just did it. And that translates later on into different goals that are put out there in front of you in life.
Yeah, man, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, like just talking about it. And it's taking that first step, right? Whatever you want to do, it's just starting and getting started. I know I speak about this as well, and I know probably the people who are going to be listening to this have heard me talk about it too. It's anything that you are longing for, that you have written down on your goals, or that, you know, that you're missing out of your life, it's what step are you not taking that you're afraid to take right now? And I really like that you said your parents were very supportive and not limiting you and saying you can't do something, or maybe you should do something else, because that was my parents. Both my parents, you know, they were born in the early 70s, so they were 80s punk. I grew up on like Van Halen and Leonard Skinner, and I'm from the Carolinas, you know, so I was redneck, and I was on the drums hitting a snare before I could walk, and I got into drum lessons, and it was like, you know, one day at 4th, 5th grade, my mom's like, you want to play football? There's football signups, and I was a skater, you know. And all my friends at school and everybody, it was like me as the skater. Maybe there was 2 of us that skated, but we were looked at as like, oh, the weird outcast skateboarders. And then I show up coincidentally because the skate park was at the community center. So I'm skating with my football gear, like up on the bench. And then I would show up to my practice in my skate clothes, like changing on the field. And they would all be stepping on my board with their cleats, ruining the grip tape. Like, oh, what is this skateboard? You're skating. And If I realized I didn't want to do it. I played football maybe like 2 years and then I stopped. And then my mom's only rule was like, if you have good grades and you're being successful, you're getting your chores done, like you're whatever it is, like you're respectful to me, you're respectful to your elders, you're a decent human being, there's that basis foundation. You can do whatever you want. So if you want to pick up the guitar, if you want to start playing hockey or whatever it is, you want to go skate for 8 hours a day, I don't care. As long as you show me a good report card, you get your chores done and you respect people. And that really, I took advantage of it because I was like, okay, chores are done. My mom's happy. My grades are, straight A's. I'm going to go skate and I'm going to learn to skate. And that's all I did. And I really took advantage of, whatever I wanted to do. And that's translated into me now. It's like, I've always, you have friends that are like, oh, I want to be a lawyer or I want to go to, medical school or something. I didn't have any of that, man. I was a weird guy. People would ask me, we'd go around the classroom like freshman, sophomore year. What do you want to go to college for? I'm like, I just want to be me. Like, I want to have a good life. I don't know. And to this day, I still have that. It's like, how can I be me? And that's skateboarding, traveling, and helping people. And I think more people should figure out, what do you want? Money left off the table, because a lot of people are like, oh, let me go and be a PA and get 80 grand into debt because I'm going to make 200 grand a year, and it's like, but is that going to make you happy because of the school and the debt and this long-term crap? Are you doing it because you really want to be in medical school, or are you doing it because it makes a lot of money? And if you follow what your passions are and what makes you happy, the money will come, and the people will back you with what you're doing. And as you see with this Purple Heart and the podcast, it's like every little avenue, it opens the door to someone that says, hey, I know someone that can help you. Let me help you,
Yes. And I mean, listening to you is freaking awesome. And thank you for the opportunity, Jacob, to be on here because, you and I have a lot of similarities. And when I grew up, I brought up hockey earlier. I was drafted when I was 14. I played in the North American Junior Hockey League. I got to play hockey in Sweden. Everybody thought I was going to be in the NHL. And from the time I was about 12, 13, my skateboard traveled with me everywhere I went to play hockey. So we were in Sweden and all the guys are out drinking and I'm skating underneath Stockholm, Sweden, like grinding benches and stuff. And my dad just expected it. He did oftentimes say, put your skateboard away. You're going to break your leg and ruin your hockey career. But he understood that I really loved what I was doing on both fronts. I love stopping hockey pucks and I love skating. So he wasn't totally against it. Uh-huh. But he really thought, that he'd be getting tickets to Joe Louis Arena here in Detroit or probably Toronto. I'm more of a Maple Leafs fan. But, my parents were always so very cool. And the thing you said about opportunities being open as you follow your passion. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I really don't. Like, I don't. I do what I love to do, and these opportunities seem to come. I was terrified of speaking on stage in college. And now I've spoke to thousands of people across the country, and I don't have a problem getting behind a camera and talking on the mic because I am who I am. I don't have perfect teeth. I got scars. I got, whatever. But this is who I am. If you meet me on the street, you're going to get the same person. I love what I do. It resonates. And when you do that, I mean, it's incredible the opportunities that open up, and you cannot imagine what those might be. But when you are doing what you love, if it's skateboarding, if it's tennis, if it's hockey, if it's dancing, if it's mathematics, when you are passionate about it, the money doesn't matter because you love what you're doing. And the craziest opportunities will open up for you when you live your life that way. It's a whole lot better than, like you said, going to bed for 8 hours, being at some place you really don't want to be for 8 or 10 hours a day. And then when you get home, you're like, wow, that just sucked. And now I get to go and do it all over again tomorrow. That's awesome. But when you're really passionate about living life, it is an incredible feeling, and you get excited to wake up in the morning and get out of bed. I love meditation. I'm really passionate about my meditation program. I'm excited to get up in the morning and get my coffee ready to get my morning meditation in, because I lay out a plan for the day And then now I've been meditating at 3:30 or 4:30 in the afternoon. So I'm like, okay, I got to lay down and heal my body for 42 minutes. It's a 42-minute regimen. And at night, it's a gratitude meditation. I'm thankful for the pillow I had to lay my head on, for the roof over my head, that I had this opportunity to continue to live in this body, because I've abused it like nobody's business. And I'm fortunate and honored to be alive today and to be on here with you, man.
Man, that is powerful, because a lot of people are, I wouldn't say sheltered, but they don't have the experience of knowing to where they're grateful for just the small things, right? You know, I've been fortunate to, well, backstory, my dad, he moved us all around. I was in the Carolinas, north and south, moved to Tampa. I lived in Tampa for my first grade year, had a membership at skate park at Tampa. That's when my brother got me into skating. I saw Phoenix Am with like Bam Margera and friggin' like my brother got me in before there was even the Phoenix Pro, or not Phoenix, the Tampa Pro. And we moved to Illinois, and then my parents split. I used to race motocross, and my brother and I were traveling deep into motocross. And like you with hockey, I thought we were about to be homeschooled. We had a track in the yard. Like it was, if I wasn't in school, I was riding, because my dad was like, you know, you guys are good at it. Let's keep going and we'll keep racing, and you're going to make us money. Right. And then they divorced. My dad sold the bike, sold the trailers, sold all the gear. He moved to Mexico, and my brother left. So it was like I was at a standstill from every day being with my dad and brother, either fixing the bike or riding the bike, to losing my brother, losing my dad, gone. Like I just didn't know what the hell to do. So then I was in the garage, you know, just like probably just crying or looking at whatever, just it was empty. Like there was no more filters, there's no more oil where we used to change the oil. And I remember I had this blue, it was a Bam Margera board. It was like some little tiny mini board that he had, and then my brother had given it to me. And I started skating. And I told myself, when I see my brother in the summer and I go to Mexico, I'm going to be good. Like I'm going to be able to skate with my brother. And that was my motivation. And then it got to the point where I got too good. I passed my brother, right? And he was like, I don't even want to skate with you no more. I just want to film you. But that is what started me competing and getting in, because, you know, skateboarding is my outlet. It's, if I'm stressed, if I'm hurt, if I just need to take a break from work, skating is that one thing I can do to clear my head. And that was initially what got me to do that. But it's, I don't know, it's incredible the way that skating works and can help you. Like you said, you meditate. I feel like skating is my meditation for everything I need in my life. And a lot of us, we use skateboarding as an outlet. But what I like to teach and talk to people about is, what if skateboarding could not just be an outlet to like a shitty life, but could be your way to financial freedom or the life that you want to live? Like we use it as a resource instead of as an outlet. You know, just as you would go to the park and I would spend endless hours just trying to learn how to heel flip. What if I went home or after my job, you know, I'm like, wow, I really hate my job. And like, I'm not happy with where I'm at. Now I'm spending endless hours of figuring out how I can get to where I want to be, and never giving up until you have what you want, you know, like just like dropping in. Once you get that small little win, it topples and it's like a ripple effect. But skateboarding can't just be your outlet. There's too much to learn from skateboarding. And out of all skateboarders listening to this, if you just apply what you are doing at the skate park with your relationships, with your business, with the job that you're at, your life will change. Like everything that you learn at the park can be translated to right here, right now. I mean, it's the reason why you and I are sitting on a Saturday afternoon talking and not doing something else, right?
Yeah, and you know, I love listening to you talk, Jacob, because like I can relate. I brought up meditation, and anything you do with a single focus is a form of meditation. It doesn't matter if you're doing the dishes or you're riding a skateboard. If you're focused on one thing, it really is a form of meditation. And I've told my mom since I was about 15, 16 years old, when I started, having breakups and heartbreaks and different things happening, losing a hockey game. I said, I can go out on my skateboard right now. And I grew up in a low-income townhouse complex. And I said, I could go out on my skateboard right now And for that hour, it wouldn't matter what was going on. If you told me I was going to die in 2 hours, I could skate for an hour and I wouldn't worry about what was going to happen then. And it still is that way today. I've been skating for, I guess, like 36, 37 years, something like that. And skateboarding is still exactly what it is today as it was when I was 12 or 11 years old. And it really, truly is. I could have the roughest day in the world and go to the skate park, and for that hour, doesn't matter if all I do is frontside grinds or if I'm doing inverts on a vert ramp, it doesn't really matter. I'm riding my skateboard, and the only reason I'm riding a skateboard is because I thoroughly enjoy it to the depths of my soul. I enjoy riding a skateboard for no other reason than the action of riding a skateboard. And that's a rad feeling. And I encourage anybody, if there's something in your life that you have that is even remotely like this, embrace that, because there are a lot of people who don't. I've been telling my mom for 30 years. I'm like, I wish you would just find one thing that you love as much as I love skateboarding, and you would never have to worry about anything else. And it is true how we fall into it too. Your story with picking up a skateboard and starting to ride, and the motivation at first was I want to be better than my brother.
Yeah.
Well, then the motivation was I'm really loving this, and then it shows when you're passionate. Your growth just happens because you love what you're doing. And I thoroughly believe in vibration and all this kinds of weird metaphysical stuff to a lot of people. But when you love what you're doing, special things happen. I started skateboarding about the summer of 83, 84-ish. And my former best friend had come up to visit from Florida, and he had a Monty Nolder, I believe. And I rode it, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. I like that. I wouldn't mind skateboarding. My dad went to Dunham's and bought me a board, and we rode all summer, and I just never stopped after that. I never quit. I was playing hockey with some guys from a little bit of a more affluent part of southeastern Michigan, and they already had like Powell Peralta boards and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I would buy their boards off them used. I would give them $35. My first good board was a Lance Mountain. Gave a guy $35. It had rails on it, a tail guard and everything. That was my very first good board. And I'll never forget that. I will never forget that. And I think Lance Mountain said it best, that riding a skateboard doesn't make you a skateboarder. Not being able to stop riding a skateboard makes you a skateboarder. And I was with a boatload of guys on Thursday night who rode a park here in Michigan called Endless Summer in the 70s. And I didn't know it until that Bill Tocco show. Endless Summer was one of 5 cement skate parks in the whole country in the late 70s, and it was here in Michigan. And I got to meet some of those guys on Thursday night, and many of them are still riding a skateboard. Maybe not to the level that they were then, but they're still getting on the vert ramp and pumping around.
Yeah.
Still getting on the mini ramp and doing kick turns and whatnot. And it's like, that's so rad. These guys are incredible to me. And a lot of the young guys who I taught to drop in 20 years ago are like, man, you're still riding, Garold? And my response is always the same. You're still walking? Because that's what it really is. And the life lessons, you hit on that. The life lessons we learn in skateboarding: perseverance, personal accountability, the social skills you learn at the skate parks and with other friends. I mean, there are so many important life lessons that translate to bigger things, that translate to whatever profession you choose, that translate to maybe you start working in the skateboard industry, influencing people of how it can affect your whole life. For me, it's, writing books and encouraging kids to do it yourself, to think outside the box. And I continue to practice what I preach. So it's helping me along the way as well. Yeah. And it just keeps working full circle. This conversation, I'm fired up. Like, I'm going to have a wonderful night because listening to you talk got my mind going to think even a little bit outside of my box. And so I love that we have this community that can do that for each other, either because we're trying to do it or just from having a great conversation like this. Yeah, man. It's like number one reason why I started NESW. I mean, it's in the name, Now Evolving Skateboarding. I like, it hurts me that so many skateboarders are hurting, whether that be financially, whether that be emotionally. There's
I'm not a local here in Arizona, but I've been here on and off since 2016. So I'm coming up 5 years, you know? And in the past 5 years, just the community of skaters that I've grown to know, there's been like 4 suicides of people that are 18, that are 20, that are young skaters. And it's like, bro, I used to just skate with that guy. Maybe I didn't know him on a first-hand basis, but like we would just like, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Because we'd always see each other at the park. But then it's like, now he's gone. Why? And it's really a question to me where it's like, why are so many skaters struggling? Because I feel like we are the badasses. We are the entrepreneurs of any other freaking sport. And you can tie it into motocross or BMX. Extreme sports in itself it's extreme, and it's you, and it's pushing yourself with whatever you're doing, whether that be stepping on a skateboard, a snowboard, a wakeboard, dropping down a mountain. But it raises a lot of questions to me. And I've met people that are addicted to heroin or that are on food stamps, and they're always searching for money, and they're always asking for things, they're always needing things, or they're homeless, or they're struggling with something, but they're always at the skate park. They always are, most of them, I'm not going to say all of them, they don't ever have money for rent or for a home or for food, but they always have cigarettes and beer on them. And it's like, okay, guys, I want to just tell everybody to their face. It's like, hey, look at what you're doing. Why are you broke, but you are smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day? That's at least $14 a day. If you don't even have to know math, just do 14 times 365, and that's where your money's going. And then you add on the beer, and then you add on the Coke or the weed, and it's like every little step that you could do to better yourself, every little thing you do, it adds on to each other. The same thing applies to the negative habits. One little negative habit will lead you down a rabbit hole to many others, because you surround yourself with people that are like you, that you're comfortable. I know you touched on this a little bit earlier. It's like you are comfortable, and that's the issue. You're not uncomfortable enough and putting yourself out there to step out. And if you're hanging around people that are doing drugs, if you're hanging around low lives that don't care about what they're doing, they have no motivations, you're part of that circle. They say your net worth is, you look at your 5 friends, I'll tell you what's in your bank account. And that is just so true, because we're not hanging out with people that make us uncomfortable. Just having this conversation with you, I feel, like you said, my energy's up and I feel smarter. I'm learning. I'm like, wow, man, the pool thing that you said, don't you have a piece of that coping at your mom's house, right? That's awesome. Yeah. It's like, yeah, maybe it means nothing to someone else, but it's like, that's like a piece of, I have Bill Toko's board hanging on my wall on the back, and I didn't even know what the guy looked like until I started listening to the drop-in, Yeah. So it was just because Alan gave it to me. That character.
You hit on a,
go ahead.
Yeah, Al is an awesome dude too. Like, I'm glad you brought up character, because I'm actually riding a character board right now. And Al is doing some great things, and I got a great story. I got a bunch of stories right now, but a couple things you hit on with the extreme sports world. I have yet to meet a person, young lady, young man, old lady, old man, riding a skateboard who doesn't have another creative outlet. They're a painter, they're a musician, they're a writer, they're a poet. The community just is a petri dish for creativity. And that's what I one of the many things I love about our community is the creativity. I think riding a skateboard is creative in itself, but the other things you do cultivate that creativity. I personally went to college for design. I'm a graphic illustrator. That's what I went to school for. So I can draw. So I've done a bunch of graphics for skateboards, Christian Hosoi. I've done graphics for Sheckler, just because I love to do it. I'm like, I love drawing. I can't charge somebody for this. It's like therapy, But the creativity is really rad. Great part of our community. A couple other things, you talked about some of the guys at the park who, overdoses. It's crazy right now with COVID. Overdoses are up 43%, 43% across the country. And for me, I hit a hard time around 2013, and I wasn't sure how to deal with it. And I hadn't been a drinker. I wasn't really a drug guy. And I picked up a vodka bottle, and I couldn't get out of it. I could not get out of it. I was, 3 rehabs, shut off my phone, lock my door, 3 fifths a day. I just was content that I did everything I needed to do on this earth. It was time to cash it in. I was going to drink myself to death. And people always ask me, they're like, what made you stop? Why'd you stop? And it wasn't rehab. It wasn't going to the hospital and them telling me my heart is stopping. I walked into the bathroom one day and I looked in the mirror and I said, if you want to die, dude, like, let's just keep going down this road. But if you want to live, let's stop right now, figure it out, and let's get back on track. And that's what I did. From that day, February 2nd, 2017, it was a little over 4 years ago that I decided I didn't want to die. And if somebody told me, I use this analogy when I'm explaining it to people. If somebody told me I had to crawl on glass to Antarctica to stay sober, I would have crawled on freaking broken glass to Antarctica if that's what I had to do to stay sober. But sometimes you have to get to that point. The greatest thing that ever came out of that, one, is I understand it. So I've been able to help hundreds of people privately with their addiction issues, which is awesome. I came out after being sober for 2 years. I did an interview, talked about it publicly, and I've been able to help people. The other thing is I realized that I actually fell in love with myself for the first time in 40 some odd years. And I was really, truly happy to be alive. And I wasn't performing for everybody else, because a lot of my life, I did a lot of really cool stuff. But looking back, it was because I needed other people to tell me how cool I was, because I couldn't do it for myself. Uh-huh. And that sounds a little jacked up to some people, but I wasn't, I didn't even know what it was at the time. But now looking back, it was because I really didn't have a good solid foundation that I was okay with me and who I am, and I love me for this. I had to perform every time, no matter what it was. If it was artwork, hockey, skateboarding, drumming, I was doing it so everybody else could cheer and build up my self-esteem, because I couldn't do it. Hitting the bottom of the barrel with what I was doing to my body, drinking and getting out of that, it was one of the greatest things that could have ever happened to me. But a lot of people don't see that other side. They don't get to that point. And so I'm very fortunate to be able to speak about it openly and honestly. And I mentioned it to you earlier, I went back to school recently to study more about it. So I'm more educated. I'm studying addiction studies here in Detroit. So not because I want to necessarily go out and be a counselor, but because I can be more knowledgeable when my friends or people through social media reach out and they say, I'm having a hard time, can you offer any advice? I'll know a little bit more. I'll have one more tool in my shed to be able to help them along their way. And I'm really enjoying it. Plus, I lived through it, so I understand it even from a little bit of a closer perspective. And our community, yes, every community has been ravaged by substance abuse, by depression, by mental health illness. And skateboarding is a great, I don't want to just call it an activity, because it's not. And lifestyle seems like, I don't even know if there's a word to explain it, because it is a lifestyle. It is an activity. It is this. It's so all encompassing. And our community is growing by leaps and bounds with positivity, like what we're doing right here, and getting a little bit more away from that, hardcore punk rocker alley cat kind of thing, to say it's okay to have tattoos and a crazy haircut and still be a positive, motivational person. That's okay, man.
Yes.
That's all right.
Dude, yes, 100%. Because I still have people that I know back in the Midwest that are like, I don't need a motivational speaker. Like, what are you trying to do for the skateboard industry? And they're dogging on and like telling me that I am a negative or what I'm doing with NESW is bad, because they're like, I don't need a Tony Robbins if I'm going to skate. I'm sorry, I don't need a mentor. And it's like, okay, take a look at what you're doing in your life, whether you're not happy. And I've known these people for many years, like my whole skateboarding career. It's like a lot of these people that are talking about me and the negativity is because maybe they're not comfortable with themselves of accepting it. And they're stuck where it's like, skateboarding is hesh and underground, and you have to like rebel and, fuck the police, and, capitalism is bad and all of this crap. And it's like, hey man, if you're not happy with the government or with your life, that doesn't, just because I want to be successful or like have a good life, does that mean I can't call myself a skateboarder? Why do I have to be broke? I always say this. Why do I have to smoke cigs, drink PBR to call myself a skateboarder? That is not skateboarding at all. If anything, skateboarding has set me up to travel to over 13 countries, to meet skaters all around the world, to have a conversation with you, man. It's like, those guys aren't talking to you on this podcast or whatever it is. It's like, what are you doing and who are you helping? Because this is what I'm trying to do, and it's all positive. So why are you hating on it? Like, this is skateboarding for me, and I'm trying to bring other people with it. So with now evolving skateboarding worldwide, it's like, if you want to be a better person, if your friends are not helping you, if you need a better community to surround yourself with, I'm right here. And this brand, like on my shirt, this, you see someone riding our boards, it's a representation that, hey, this person is open to talk to me. This person is a connection that I can make, not just at the park, but maybe we know someone that can help us financially, or just be someone that I can say, hey, man, I need someone to talk to. Like, our community is not skaters that are like judgmental or trying to put people down. We are trying to build up skaters to where we are the entrepreneurs of skateboarding. Like, I want success for all skateboarders, and that is the end goal. I'm trying to get out of the rebellious bull crap. You can have tattoos, green hair, whatever you want, but have a good personality, have some goals, better someone else's life. And like you touched on too, it's, you got to love yourself first before you can go and give love to someone else, for sure.
Well, you can't give away what you don't have. If you got an empty bucket, you can't give somebody a drink. So that's one way to look at it. And I personally think that positive thinking, sobriety, that is the new punk rock. There's the great gentleman, his name is Noah Levine, and he wrote Refuge Recovery. It's Buddhism and the 12 Steps. But dude is a gnarly punk rocker, man. He is gnarly, tattooed to the hilt, and he's doing his thing, holding meditation courses. His book, Against the Stream, I'm reading it right now, and it is the most rebellious thing I've ever read. It's seriously the most rebellious thing I ever read, and it's about Buddhism, and he talks about it like the way we're talking right here. He's dropping F-bombs and doing all this kind of stuff, but he's talking about meditation. He's talking about punk rock stuff, and but this spiritual stuff too. And it's like, you know what? That is the new punk rock. Being able to walk into a party and go, I'm good. I'm not that I mean, saying I'm high on life is a little bit overused, but they're like, dude, you're so fired up. You got so much energy. I'm like, dude, I'm just happy being fucking alive, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. I'm happy to be alive and not having to drown, to mask reality, to hide from anything because I don't like it. If I don't like it, guess what? I can create it brand new right now. I can put the work in. I can give Jacob a call. I can give, we have each other's numbers. If I'm having a hard time, I can give you a call. Go, dude, I'm having a hard time. I want to think out the box. Let's brainstorm some shit, dude. And as you surround yourself, you brought up the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Elon Musk calls it the 5 chimps theory. The 5 chimps theory. You are the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I mean, Elon Musk is no joke. That dude is doing things the way he wants to do it. I'll give you one other example. The guy who invented the Segway, the dude who invented the Segway, and I can't recall his name offhand right now, but he has 413 inventions. He's the modern day Thomas Edison. And when he didn't like the way the country was, he bought an island in Long Island Sound. I am not even kidding you. You can look this up. And it's called, he has his own currency called dumplings. His title is Lord Dumpling. I forget, it's called Dumpling Island or something. He has a non-aggression pact with the United States. Like, he's like, I don't like bureaucracy, I'm changing it. And I think about that. I don't like the skateboard industry the way it is, I'm gonna freaking change it. I don't like, I like this book, but I think I can do it better. I'm going to write a new book, my version of that book, because I think I can voice it a little bit differently. I want to make a positive impact on skateboarding and the community and relate it to life. Guess what? I'm going to start a company that can relate this and put a 6-week program together that people can log in and check out like-minded individuals and realize that opportunity is there. And that's what we're doing right here.
Man, absolutely. And not even, I don't want to say even the word politics, but you see a lot of people with everything from the pandemic, from the new election, people are like complaining, oh, I don't like this, or this shouldn't happen, and I am not political in whatsoever. My main thing is what you just said. If you don't like something, freaking change it. If you think capitalism is the problem and these billionaires are the ones that are controlling all the money and whatever, why don't you become the next billionaire and then you get to decide what the hell you do with the money, instead of complaining while you're working at a job you hate, with people you hate, at living with your parents that you freaking hate, complaining about people living a great life, or capitalism. Why don't you become that next Thomas Edison? Why don't you do whatever it is, and then you have the power to decide what you're going to change. But you sitting at your basement logging in and complaining on Facebook, it's not doing shit, man. You got to go out and get after what you want. And too many people complain and sit back, and they don't want to put in the work. And you see it. I mean, as I change, my friends change. That's for damn sure. And it's humorous, and I don't know. It's interesting to look back and say, wow, we've connected once, but I'm on different playing fields. I don't want to be talking to people my age. I always skated with people that were, I'd be 14 skating with people that are 24, 25, 26. I remember having to have the people come over to my house because I was going to take a train into Chicago. I always took the trains in, and I was too young. I was like 13, 14, but the people that I skated with were older. And I'm like, I want to go to Chicago and skate. Like, I want to street skate with you guys. So then I had him come over and meet my mom. And I was like, Mom, these are my friends. Like, they're all adults. She's like, what the hell? What's your interest with my son? Like, what are you guys doing here? They're like, no, we're just trying to skate. But the people that I was skating with that were my age, they weren't good. And not that I didn't like them or whatever, but I was interested in the ones that were doing like kickflip crook down a handrail, or like a tray flip rock on the quarter pipe, or a back tail on just the box. And it was just like, damn, like, I want to do what he's doing. I'm not trying to ask the guy who can drop in how to drop in, because I already know that. I want to be hanging out with those people. And that was embedded in my head, like, very early on. If you want to get somewhere, go find someone who's already done it, who's 20, 30, 40 years ahead of you, and ask them how they did it. As simple as that.
Well, and you brought up Tony Robbins earlier, and he says that. He says that if you're going out to do anything, find the guy who's already doing it and emulate that. We brought up the 5 chimps theory. It goes with anything. If you're a skateboarder, hockey player, writer, whatever you are, if you surround yourself with the people who are already doing it and their level is a little bit more than yours, you're going to rise to that occasion. If they're below you, you're gonna sort of settle for that. And so surrounding yourself with people who are a little more talented than you, have a little more knowledge than you, that's where you're going with that. And I will tell you, this isn't new. We just have a bigger, an easier way to reach a wider audience. I mentioned Thursday night I was with some guys who were skating the cement parks in the late 70s and early 80s here in Michigan. Well, a gentleman named Tony Emmer was out there, geared up, skating with us. He's a brain surgeon. The dude's a neurosurgeon, and he was the expert on concussions. I had him on my show about a year ago, and I was looking for somebody who had some knowledge on concussions. They're like, talk to Tony Emmer. I messaged Tony Emmer. Next thing I know, I find out he's a skateboarder. We have multiple friends, and I saw him the other night, and he's padded up skating a vert ramp with us. And this dude's a neurosurgeon. Skateboarders are incredible people. And I think if we can get the message out to a wider audience that what we learn on a board is stuff that definitely translate to life in general, but also those are things that nobody can take away. What other activity on the freaking planet is there that is similar to a young kid throwing himself down a set of steps for 5 hours straight to land a trick one time for no other reason than to say, I did it. That's all I needed to do was I did it. There is not another activity on the planet. And that kind of drive, that kind of passion, doesn't leave you when you step off a skateboard. And especially if you experience that at 11, 12, 15, 16, when you get to be 20, 25, 30, and obstacles coming your way, you'll remember that. You will remember that subconsciously. You will remember overcoming that kickflip down a 9 set that you beat the hell out of yourself for 5 hours until you rode away. And I would challenge anybody watching this across the country to show me an experience that is similar to that.
Yes. And I think it's important to note how hard it is, whether it be throwing yourself down a stair set or, like you said, the 5 chimp theory. It is hard to go find new friends, to surround yourself with new people that are going to test you and push you and say, what are you doing? And in a way where you take it not as criticism, but as like constructive criticism. And you're not offended by it because they're ultimately just telling you the truth. Like, hey, you know, maybe like you smell, go take a shower, or like something's, you know, where it's going to get you further. And you got to surround yourself with those better people. And it is hard, man. It is hard, whether it be skating, anything that's going to be better. Like you said, you have to get uncomfortable, and being uncomfortable is hard. Having new friends is hard. Starting a business is hard. And getting into a different income level is hard. It's all hard. There's a great saying that says like, it's hard to be broke. It's also hard to be rich. Like you just have to choose your heart. Do I want to live with the struggle of not being able to pay my rent? The struggle with maybe addiction, the struggle with like having friends that don't care about me, with not having a good relationship, with being unhappy. That shit's hard. Having to wake up and work for pennies on the dollar. Like you just got to choose your heart. Or do you want to wake up before the sun and start reading and meditate and find a new podcast? Like it is a hustle. You just got to pick your heart, man, because it is not easy. You can't float your way to the top of a mountain. You got to fucking climb. And a lot of people, they just got to start climbing. You got to choose your heart.
Well, and I think Noah Levine, who I brought up earlier, against the stream. Sometimes it is swimming against the stream. And with NESW, hopefully we can let enough people know that there are like-minded individuals out there, that there are people in your community who do think like you do. Yes, it's easy to just go with the status quo. It's easy to say, oh, whatever, I'll do it tomorrow. Procrastination is a serious killer. But it is very easy to play the poor me card, to take the negative route. It's not always easy to be happy all the time. It takes effort. It takes effort. Some days are harder than others. But when you surround yourself with like-minded individuals, on those tough days, your friends bring the stoke, man. On the days you need it, they bring it, and they, you don't even have to tell them. There's just some kind of vibration, some unwritten rule where they know in their heart that you needed a little pick me up, and they brought it that day. And when you surround yourself with the right people, it's an amazing feeling, and I love how it is so contagious. Like when I get someplace, you know, I love to cheer for everybody on the ramp. And they're like, you're like 12, Garold. You're like 14. I don't know what they expect, like some Buddhist or something. But I'm still that punk rock little kid who gets fired up. And I love to try to raise the energy. There's a book that I read. I continue to read tons of books. I'm constantly learning. Right now, I'm reading a book by a guy named, Yeshin. I don't know.
Knowledge is power.
Pardon me?
Knowledge is power. They say the average millionaire, the average CEO reads 60 plus books a year. The average person in the US they read less than one book, less than a book.
I'm about 2 a month. 2 a month I'm reading. And if I like it a lot, then I'm.
What's the name of the one that you're reading now?
It's by Fashion. I'll text it to you because he's a gentleman who started mindvallie.com, which is just a conglomerate of all like kind of personal growth packages, and he's just a cool dude. His story is great. He worked for Microsoft and got fired at 22, and just a great story. But I'm constantly trying to learn new tools to make myself better. Trying to learn new ways to influence and inspire, and it's just inspiring through action. It's inspiring by leading by example. Mm-hmm. I don't preach anything that I don't do personally, and I think that itself speaks volumes because I know that I don't know it all. Nobody knows enough to be a pessimist. I love that
Yes.
quote. There's not a person on the planet that knows enough to be a pessimist. And so if you want to better yourself, it's your job. You have to put in that effort. You have to love yourself enough to take the time to put in the effort. If it's a book, if it's a meditation program, if it's a 6-week program here, if it's sending me a personal message saying, hey, G, I'm having a hard time with drugs or alcohol or this or that. It's taking that time to love yourself enough to put in the effort to know there is something more for you. And that's what I try to a big part of my message that I try to get across to people is love yourself enough to know you are worth it. And that's not always that easy.
Wow, man. That was powerful. We're coming up already on an hour. I want to just end it like that, just right there, cut clip. Man, thank you so much for wanting to come on here and talk. And if you don't follow, what is it, Purple Heart and the Drop-In podcast, like just say, where can people find out and listen in and get more information on you?
Okay. And thank you. Thank you. I'm very honored to be on here, Jacob. And I know we're going to do some more stuff together.
100%. This just lit a fire in my ass. I'm like, I got to talk to you every day, man. What's going on?
But Garold Vallie, you spell it GAROLD VALLIE. I go by my real name on Facebook, Instagram. I'm not super active on Twitter. If you go to GaroldVallie.com, you can find more about my story, links to my podcast. Any questions you have, drop me a personal message. I answer almost 100% of every single message I get. And yeah, reach out if you need a little direction, something you want to do. I know people across this country, as I know Jacob does as well. And no matter where you're at, I can point you in the right direction to get to where you want to be. So thank you for taking the time to sit down with us for 60 minutes, because the one thing you can't get back is time. And you just spent an hour with me. So thank you.
Perfect, man. I'm just going to